alanlardan gelen ve biz de belki 2016-2017 yılı itibariyle, akademik yılı itibariyle bizlerle ilk günden itibaren beraber olan sizler ve daha sonra aramıza katılan tüm arkadaşlarımız, hepinize hoş geldiniz diyoruz. Bugünkü davetimize de zaman ayırıp katıldığınız için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Gün içinde hepimizin işleri var, programları var. Efendim bugün çok kıymetli bir hocamızı, çok kıymetli bir dostumuzu misafir ediyoruz. Aslında misafir kelimesini de kullanmak istemiyorum. Çünkü kendisi aynı zamanda ev sahibidir. Enstitümüzün çok kıymetli bir ortağıdır ve çok değerli bir parçasıdır. Cemal hocamızın da çok yakın arkadaşı ve dostudur. Değerli arkadaşlar, Yasushi hocamızın özgeçmişinden hocam haddim olmayarak çok kısaca söz edeceğim. Bize kendileri hani bir Japon olarak ve Japonca ayrı bir ülke gibi geliyor bana. Yani Japonya ayrı bir ülke ama inanın düşünce sistemi, algılama sistemi olarak Japonca da öyle bir ayrı bir düşünce ülkesi. Yani nasıl İslam'la nasıl tanıştınız, neden İslam araştırmaları konularına yöneldiniz dediğimizde bize şöyle bir cevap vermişlerdi. Kendileri lise yıllarında İzut suyu okuyorlar. Malumunuz, hepiniz biliyorsunuz, Türkçe'ye birçok kıymetli tercümeleri var. Özellikle İbn Arabi'nin metinlerinin anlaşılması hususunda arkadaşlarımız yakından tanıyorlar. Efendime söyleyeyim. O kadar hayran olmuşlar ki kendilerine. O yıl ilk defa Tokyo Üniversitesi'nde İslam çalışmaları bölümü açılıyor. O yıl ilk defa öğrenci alacak. Hocamız İzutsu'ya olan aşkı ve hayranlığıyla bu bölüme kaydoluyorlar. Bu bölüme kaydoluyorlar. Ve kendileri yani Tokyo Üniversitesi'nin yani bir anlamda kıymetli hocam, size şimdi bir anlamda Japonya'daki aslında formal diyelim değil mi hocam? İlk yani formal İslam çalışmaları eğitiminin en başından geliyorlar. Dolayısıyla kendileri aynı zamanda bunun yapıcıları, tesis edicileri, inşa edicileri arasında. Bu çok kıymetli bir fark. Hocamız İbn Arabi düşüncesi üzerine doktorasını yapıyor. Daha sonrasında da Japonya'da gerek İslam çalışmalarının yaygınlaşması ve akademik anlamda farklı halkalarda yer bulması için çok orijinal girişimleri var, çok önemli çalışmaları var. Şöyle anlatmaya çalışayım. Bir şey mesela çok dikkatimi çekti hocam. Arap olmayan dillerde demişsiniz. Arapça dışındaki dillerde özellikle bazı harflerin ve bazı kelimelerin nasıl yazılması gerektiği, nasıl yazılabileceği düşünecek olursanız bu başlı başına bir çalışma alanı aslında. Dille ilgili de böyle çok ilginç çalışmaları olmuş hocamızın ki buna yani aktarılabilsin, hakkıyla aktarılabilsin. Yani tasavvuf düşüncesinden, İbn Arabi düşüncesinden sosyal antropolojik halkalarına kadar çok geniş çerçevede hocamız bir takım halkalar eklemişler. O kadar ki Japonya'da din çalışmaları, İslam çalışmaları ve Orta Doğu araştırmaları ile ilgili bütün akademik birliklerde hocamız mutlaka ya üye, ya kurucu üye ya da mutlaka onların editorial board'unda yer alıyorlar. Şimdi efendim bizim kendileriyle tanışmamız ve bu işbirliğimiz bu anlamda belki de çok önceki yıllarda oluşturulmaya başlamış. Yani nerede, nasıl? Siz bir taraftan koşuyormuşsunuz, biz bir taraftan koşuyormuşuz. Bir yerde buluştuk. Nerede buluştuk? Aslında enstitüde buluştuk bu anlamda. Hocamın gene çok eski ve yakın dostlarından Sachiko Murata. Sachiko Murata vesilesiyle Japondur Sachiko hocamız biliyorsunuz. William Çitik hocamızın eşidir. Japondur fakat Çin çalışmış aslında. Çok yönlü. Yani Japonlar böyle gerçekten çok yönlü. Efendime söyleyeyim. Sachiko sayesinde bizler bir araya geldik. Hocamın bir sohbeti üzerine hemen Sachiko bizi değil mi efendim Kosugi hocamızla olan dostlukları üzerinden Yasushi hocamızla ilişkilendirdiler. Yasushi Tonaga hocamız 1981'de ilk Türkiye'ye geliyorlar. 1981'den beri Türkiye'deki gerek el yazması kütüphaneler, gerekse yani literatür barındıran bütün kütüphaneleri en ince ayrıntısına kadar bilen bir insan ve Kyoto Üniversitesi'ne de bu konuda çok sayıda dokümanı değil mi efendim taşımış bir hocamız. Efendim Kerim Vakfı ile Kyoto Üniversitesi arasındaki bu işbirliğinin temin edilmesinin ardından Kerim Vakfı'nın diğer girişimleri olan Amerika, Kuzey Carolina efendime söyleyeyim din çalışmaları bölümündeki Kenan Rifai kürsüsü ve Pekin Üniversitesi İleri Beşeri Bilimler Enstitüsü'ndeki Kenan Rifai kürsüsü, Kyoto Kenan Rifai Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Merkezi ve Üsküdar Üniversitesi Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Enstitüsü. Hocamızın yani yürüttüğü kendileri direktörü bu merkezin web sitesine açıp baktığınızda orada yalnızca bir Kerim Vakfı girişimi olarak bulmayacaksınız bunu. Kerim Vakfı'nın buradaki pozisyondan bahsedilmekle birlikte doğrudan Üsküdar Üniversitesi Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Enstitüsü bu merkezimizin destekçileri arasında, ortakları arasında geçmektedir. Biz buna kız kardeşler diyoruz. Değil mi hocam? Sister Institutes diyoruz kendi aralarında. İnşallah bütün bu girişimler birbirlerini destekleyerek çok güzel bir dil yaratacaklar ve tasavvufun evrensel dilinin inşallah duyulmasını, tadılmasını sağlayacaklar. Buna yönelik de 2021 tarihli bir projeksiyonumuz var hocamla, belki bahsederler. Efendim, Yasushi hocamızla ilgili çok kısaca ifade etmeye çalıştım bunları. Perşembe, Cuma günü Fransız kültürün bir girişimiyle burada bir sempozyum yapılmıştı tasavvuf konusunda. Baba mirasımız mı diyeceğiz? Biraz öyle geçiyor galiba değil mi? Gizli tasavvuf mirasına ilişkin bir sempozyum. O sempozyumda çok kısa bir anekdot olarak bahsedeceğim. Hocam dedi ki yani herkese dedi en fazla 2 oturum başkanlığı verilmişti dedi. Bana dedi 5 tane mi ne? Yani toplantıyı başından sonuna Yasushi hocamız idare etmiş. Çünkü değerli arkadaşlar, yani alanı çok geniş. Yani çok fazla şeye dokunmuşlar gerçekten. Hocamız çok genç görünmekle birlikte yani çok uzun bir araştırmacılık tecrübesi var. Uzun yıllara dayanıyor araştırmacılığı. Efendim biz hocamızla 1 yıllık çok kıymetli, devlet destekli yurtdışı Türkler ve akraba topluluklar Kyoto Üniversitesi, Üsküdar Üniversitesi Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Merkezi bir hocam proje yaptık. Yani Kerim Vakfı, Üsküdar Üniversitesi, Kyoto Üniversitesi ve tabii devlet desteğiyle efendim bir eğitim programı yaptık ve 2 sempozyum yaptık. Bu çalışmalardan hareketle efendim hatta bu çalışmalar öncesinde hocamız bu çalışmaya bir altlık oluşturması için son 100 yıla dayanan yani Japonya'da son 100 yıla dayanan tasavvuf araştırmalarını hocam bunu lütfen siz biraz bahsedin. İçerisinde 1000'in üzerinde bibliografik bir çalışma 1000'in üzerinde referans var. Japonlar da hocam biraz bizim gibi, yani biz biraz Türkçe yazıyoruz ya, onlar da biraz Japonca yazmayı seviyorlar, özellikle beşeri bilimlerde. O yüzden birçok Japonca çalışma bilinmeyebiliyor. Yani Türkçe çalışmaların bilinmediği gibi. Bu nedenle çok değerli bir çalışma oldu. Biz bunu Çin'de de takdim ettik Pekin Üniversitesi'ne. Onlar da çok etkilendiler ve hatırı sayılır araştırmacılara bunu mutlaka şey yapıyoruz. Önemli kütüphanelere, İslam'da falan bulacaksınız. Özellikle istediler orada. Arkadaşlarım da bunu kütüphanemizde bulabilirler. Aynı şekilde bunların tamamı Kyoto Kenan Rifai çalışmaları serisi olarak yayınlandı. 3 kitap yayınlandı. 4.'sü de inşallah önümüzdeki yıl çıkacak. İkinci çalışma, evet bu ikinci, bu birincisiydi, özür dilerim. Gözlüklerimi bakıp unutmuşum bu arada. Efendime söyleyeyim, bu da bizim bu İki Doğu'nun Köprüsü sempozyumunun birinci İstanbul'da yaptığımız sempozyumu içeriyor ama aynı zamanda hocamızın Fransa'da işbirliğiyle Kyoto Üniversitesi'nin yapmış olduğu bir başka sempozyumun bildirileri, yani 2 önemli sempozyumun bildirilerini içeriyor. Efendim bu üçüncüsü de, hocam bunu belki çalışmalardan bahsederken takdim ederlerse çok memnun olurum. Yani bütün dünyaya ulaştırmaya çalıştık. Çok değerli bir çalışma. Projenin kapanış panelini de içermektedir. Kapanış paneli de bu kitapta yer alıyor. Onda Can Güzel Zülfikar hocamız Kyoto Üniversitesi'nde bizimle birlikte çalışan Yasushi hocamızın şimdi bahsedecekler. 5 çok kıymetli doktora öğrencisinin İstanbul referanslı çalışmalarına dayanan bir çok güçlü panelle kapattık. Bahsedecekler hocamız. Çok teşekkür ederim. Efendime söyleyeyim, gerçekten geniş katılımlı, çok önemli bir sempozyumun da tarihinin konulmasına vesile oldu. Kerim Vakfı bir uluslararası Kenan Rifai sempozyumu yapmak istiyordu. Bunu projenin kapanışıyla birleştirdik ve gerçekten İslam ve tasavvuf alanında yapılan çalışmaların yöntem olarak, metot olarak yeniden düşünülmesi. Biraz aslında onu yapmaya çalışıyoruz. Yeniden düşünülmesi üzerine yoğunlaştığımız çok kıymetli bir sempozyum yapıldı. Dünyanın her yerinden bu konunun uzmanları geldiler. Ben bahsetmeyeceğim. Lütfen bunlardan hocam bahsetsin. Efendim daha fazla vaktinizi almak istemiyorum ama o kadar çok söylenecek şey var ki hocamız hakkında. Hocamızı çok seviyoruz. Gerçekten yani bizlerden birisi her anlamda, ruhen öyle. İnşallah ilişkilerimiz daim olur. Hocamız şimdi Japonya'da bu tasavvuf araştırmalarına yönelik çalışmalarından bahsedecek. Konuşmalarımdan da anlatabildiğim gibi aslında Izutsu'nun yani zeminini oluşturduğu bu çalışmaların bugün aktif temsilcisi, yürütücüsü ve yani tarlası aslında Yasushi Tonaga hocamız. İnşallah Kenan Vakfı'nın bir girişimi olan Kenan Rifai Tasavvuf Araştırmaları Merkezi de hocamızın çalışmalarına bu anlamda destek oluyordur. İnşallah öyledir. Efendim çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Bir de fena makamına ilişkin bazı değerlendirmeleri olacak hocamızın. Bir de Cuma günü konuşmasını dinleyemedik Zeynep hocam. Yasushi hocamızın dedik ki acaba hocam bize Cuma günü bu sempozyumda, davet edildiği sempozyumda kendi konuşmasından da biraz bahsedebilirler mi? Onda çok orijinal bir konusu var. Efendim lütfederseniz, lütfen buyurunuz.
Please allow me to talk in English. I know some Turkish, but English not that hard for language. So today I was asked. Do you country here?
Şimdi çalışıyor.
Okay. Okay. I'm very happy to be here to to share the same atmosphere, the same air with you. And first of all, I'd like to express my great gratitude to Hanum and the organizers of this special lecture, and also to the Kerry Foundation and Üsküdar University. And so today I was originally asked to talk about two things. One is about the present situation or the history of the Japanese studies on Sufism. And the second one is, an independent presentation on something. But as you have just heard, after coming here, only after the conference, I was asked to make something like audit of my presentation at the conference. So my presentation will be divided into three parts. So I would like to make everything abridged and concise. So the first topic is about the present situation in the Japanese studies on Sufism. And so because I'm now Professor Elif kindly explained, I am now the director of the Kenan Rifai Center for Sufi Studies at Kyoto University. This is the logo we have, the who, it says. And it's the Kenan Rifai Center for Sufi Studies at Kyoto University. It was established only 3 years ago. But I believe that this is the first center established only for Sufi studies. There are many centers for Middle Eastern studies or Islamic studies. But I think this is the first center only for Sufi studies. Of course, in Japan, this is the first. Maybe in worldwide, also this is the first center, and at the moment, the only center dedicated only for Sufi studies. And with this URL, you can find our homepage. And so now on this, I will skip this. I originally intended to introduce some of our publications. But anyway, the first volume of our series was the bibliography of Sufi Tariq and Saint Carlos in Veneration Studies in Japan. And the first part of my talk depends on this bibliography. And so if we run the Sufi studies in Japan, maybe we can divide this study, this so-called Sufi studies, into three parts or three topics. One is about Sufism itself, theory of Sufism, and so on. And second is related with tariqas. And the third is related with saint veneration. And as for the Sufism, so maybe you can see green color means anthropological studies, light blue color. How can I return these names?
You can touch the same. Yeah. You're going to go back to your laptop.
Yeah. And so light blue means architecture. This is no architecture here, maybe. This is history. This is literature. This is metaphysics, metaphysical study, or the theoretical studies. And this is others. So you can easily see that the metaphysical or theoretical studies research is dominant in Sufism. And about the tariqa, the anthropology and history are competing with each other. And as for the saint veneration researches, anthropology is dominant, but competed by history. And we see these three topics one by one. This is the transition of the ratio of the, according to the disciplines. It started as metaphysical studies, 100%. And then literature was emerging. These concentrated on Persian literature, namely Persian poetry. They were the researchers that before the Second World War, they were very interested in, for example, Sa'di, Hafiz, and Rumi, and so on and so forth. And you're enjoying new technologies, so I cannot follow it. Anyway, so after 1960s or 70s, metaphysical studies have become dominant. And as for the metaphysical Sufi studies, first came Toshihiko Izutsu, you know. He already passed away, and he was like this. I happened to attend his special open lecture just after the Iranian Revolution. Before that, he stayed in Tehran, in the Merkez University's Tehran branch, but he was obliged to leave Iran because of the revolution. And after that, he returned to Japan. And just after his return to Japan, he was asked to give 2 serial lectures. And at that time, I happened to be in Tokyo. And I attended the first of this lecture. But I fell in sleep. And for the second lecture, I didn't go. But anyway, after that, after my entering university, I read his book, and I was so fascinated by his idea. At that time, he was thinking of the so-called, he was planning to make a new philosophy, Izutsu philosophy, embracing all the, how can I say, Oriental thought, Oriental mystical thoughts. And so, you know that Sufism Taoism is one of his masterpieces. There is a translation, Turkish translation of this book. And if he is the first generation, the second comes Kojiro Nakamura. He graduated from Harvard University. And he is famous for his study on Ghazali. And you can find this book, Ghazali's translation, here in the section. And then comes, this is the second generation. The third generation begins with Akihiro Matsumoto. He studied in Tehran under the supervision of Ashtiani. And he is famous for his study on the school of Ibn Arabi or Irfan Hikmat tradition in Safavid Iran. And then comes Masataka Takeshita. He graduated from Chicago University. And so in this generation, everybody took their PhD from Europe or the States, because at that time, when I was a student, it was not the case to get a PhD degree before, they submit the PhD thesis only before their retirement. So, at that time, of course, in the faculties of natural science, it was very common to become doctor before getting their job. But it was not the case in the humanities. So, at that time, doctor meant much more than the present doctor. So for us, the doctor thesis, and if it is permitted, it's something like the driver's license. I can drive a car at all, but at that time it was much more than that. And anyway, so Masataka Takeshita is famous for his book of Ibn Arabi's Theory of Perfect Man. I'm afraid that this is, maybe it's very difficult to access this book because it was published only in Japan by one of the national universities, and the circulation is very limited, so it's somewhat difficult. And last comes Shigeru Kamada of Tokyo University, the University of Tokyo. He got his PhD at Merkez University in Canada. and he is the specialist of Molla Sadra. So you can see that they based themselves on the Arabic or Persian texts or classical texts. So next comes our generation. So maybe our generation is the first generation to use not only Arabic and Persian, but Ottoman Turkish as material for this study. And second, about Tariqa studies. Originally it started as metaphysical studies, but later the historical studies became dominant, and even nowadays historical studies are dominant in Tariqa studies because they are concentrating on the for example, economical basis for Tariqa. So they use the work of documents to study this Tariqa studies. And then comes saint veneration. And it started as historical studies, but later anthropological studies has become dominant even nowadays. So let's see the general tendency again. About Sufis, metaphysical studies are dominant, Tariqa historical, and saint anthropological studies are dominant. So we are thinking of a new idea of, so it is, we named it Sufism, Saint Generation, Tariqa complex. It is not so clear, but there are three circles. This is the circle of Sufism, this is Tariqa, this is Saint Veneration. Generally speaking, all three are considered to be overlapped with each other. But according to our idea, of course, they are overlapped, but not perfectly, but partially. For example, I will tell you the examples. For example, in the case of Mevlana, he was, of course, Sufi, and he was the chief of Tariqa, and he has been venerated as a saint. So he is located here in the center. So, in his case, these three elements are overlapped. It's okay. But in the case of Ibn Arabi, for example, he was Sufi. We understand that actually he hated to be called Sufi. He called himself Ahl-Haq. But he disliked the term of Sufi. But anyway, generally speaking, he is one of the famous Sufi. And at the same time, he has been venerated as saint. And so some of you have visited his mausoleum in Damascus, Muhyiddin district. But he was not belonging to, or he didn't create any tariqas. So in his case, he is located here. And for example, my friend, he is an anthropologist, made some research on the Egyptian saint. He is called a saint, Awam. Awam means a swimmer. Why he is called swimmer? On the coast of the Mediterranean coast, in between Libya and Egypt, the dead body came to the Sahel, and of course, so everybody doesn't like it, so they push away. But again it came, and they pushed away again, but again it came. So they realized that somebody loves us and he wants to protect us. So he became a kind of patron saint for that village. But nobody knows his origin. Nobody knows if he is Muslim or not. Nobody knows if he is Sufi or not. He was belonging to Tariqa. So he was venerated as saint. It's true. Still he is venerable. But we can't say he was Sufi or he was belonging to Tariqa. So in his case, he should be located here. So these three elements are complex, making complex, but they are not the same. This is our base of way of thinking. And based on this understanding, we have conducted joint research for almost more than 20 years. And so this group was founded in 1997. And so as you saw in the graph of the three topics, we need several disciplines to make this research on this complex. So we are not only the metaphysical, students of Islamic studies, but also anthropologists, historians, some students of art, politics, economics. We are gathering with each other. And so we are approaching making the interdisciplinary approach. And another characteristic is the trans-regional approach. So we are not only the Middle Eastern specialists, but also Southeast Asian specialists, South Asian, Central Asian, African, and so on and so forth. And we have published many books and issues. So in this volume, we concentrated on Sufis, saints, and Sayyid Sharifs. And in this, we concentrated on Sufis and Tariqa, and Sufis, saints, Tariqa, again, Tariqa, and Sufis and saints, and so on and so forth. And so this is the, so again, we, these publications are connected to the present Kenan Rifai Center for Sufi Studies. We have several topics to be investigated. One is the School of Ibn Arabi. This is the catalog for the printed books of the School of Ibn Arabi collected in Japanese libraries. And second, this is Glossary of Sufism, also I edited. And another target is the Ottoman period. In Japan, the theoretical studies on Sufism was concentrating on Arab world and Persian world, but now we are targeting the Sufism, Sufi religion, Sufi tradition in the during the Ottoman period.
Professor,
okay, yes.
I wonder if the Ottoman thought is available in English, the Ottoman period. That book, Islamic tolerant culture during the Ottoman period, is it available in English?
No, unfortunately. This is the anthology of the Ottoman thought, and it is divided into several parts. And one is about Sufism, second is about theology and literature and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, it includes the original texts, but also it includes the translation, but in Japanese, not in English. So anyway, so this is the end of the first part of my talk.
We would like to thank you, Professor Tonaga. It was an excellent, but three excellent presentations, which is really difficult to handle in a very short time. We are very grateful. I wonder if you would please kindly accept any questions from the audience. Thank you. So, any questions? First, may I ask the audience to present yourselves and then ask your questions?
I already did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there are others who don't know you,
Okay.
so.
Hi, my name is Erdem Oktanus. I'm a lecturer at Boğaziçi Üniversitesi and relationship management and in essence sales and marketing. I'm a humble student at this university thanks to elegant professors. I try to teach, I try to learn. So my question, you talked about three circles, Sufism, Tariqa, and Saint veneration.
Yes.
And you said they overlap to each other, but do you think there's a common point of the three? And what do you think this common point is?
How can I? Of course, always there are the overlapped points.
They do overlap to each other.
Yeah.
There's a point where they do overlap, three of them.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this point? What do you think this point is?
This is what we have understood Sufi as it is. So we imagine that all the Sufis are the same, the members of the tariqas, and they were venerated as saints. So the common place means our understanding of Sufism itself.
So we can understand that Tariqa and Sufism, for sure, naturally, they do have common points. But when you involve saint veneration, how they got a common point?
Which point, sorry?
Saint veneration.
Yes.
You involve saint veneration,
Yes.
right? So for sure, they do have a common point. Do you think, do they have? If yes, what is this point?
I think Professor Tonaga says, I'm sorry, but like Sufi himself or herself is sufficient enough as the common point for all three perspectives. Am I right, Professor?
Thank you very much for your support.
This is my take, or at least I should.
No, I try to understand how you involve saint part. That's what I got it. Yeah, Sufi itself is a Kamil insan. Is enough to explain the common points, but how you involve the saint part, that's...
Because the Sufism itself has the theory of Aliyah theory for a long time. I myself found that the Wali theory is not based only on Sufism, but also it is based on, for example, Sunni theology. Sunni theology admitted the existence of Wali Awliya and their miracles also. But mainly speaking, the Wali theory have been believed to be the main in the mainstream of Sufi thought.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
And if you think about in Arabi's theory, one of the main aspects of his theory is his theorization of walayat, of sainthood, which then forms the basis for the development of saint veneration in the public realm. So it goes beyond philosophy and becomes popularized, quote unquote. And so you can't actually, even from the first days of Sufism, you can't separate philosophical understandings of the perfect man from the practical, its practical implications for sainthood in the field, within people, among people. That's how it translates to the commoners, I would say. Is that? Can I ask another? Can I ask a question?
Please.
Did I use up my time? Was it okay if I ask you to go back to a few slides?
Yeah.
You had some slides on when you started with Kushairi, and then you had a slide where you were giving like three, like a sort of a periodization where, and then where you had the modern period and like the period where the philosophy developed or something like that, and then you had another one right after with three. With the three triangles that you explained?
Yes. Is it okay?
Yes. So, I'm gonna. This is how this is my understanding of this of a similar perspective, but I was thinking I would object to this from one perspective. I would say that, would you say that, for instance, from, if you would take this to the formative period also, I'll take this back a little bit, would you say that, so do you include, in this perspective, do you include the formative period in the classical period?
Formative means?
I mean, like 10th century, 11th century.
Yeah. In that case, yes. If you say you mean the age of Zucht ascetics, it is there is a discussion if it is included or not. But the 10th or 9th or 10th, we can safely say that they are belonging to this classical period.
Okay. So, for instance, in the classical, like for instance, let's take up like Sawani of Ahmad Ghazali, for instance. Do you think that would also be part of mystical philosophy, or? No. In my case, he is at the top of the last phase of the classical period. So it's not. Hasn't become it hasn't been like the language of philosophy, like Abyssinian philosophy, etc., like Greek philosophy, hasn't been incorporated into Sufism yet. Is that where we sort of draw the line? Yeah. Okay, I understand. Yeah. Then I don't really have an objection. But it's just I find it interesting that the same that the philosophization of Sufism happened like sort of at the same time with its popularization.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That. These are like two. It seems like they would be two different or unrelated events, because one is like very high class and very like specific language, very few people can understand, and the other one is. So how would you relate those two? How would you say that the philosophization, that kind of opening of Sufism to philosophical or to Islamic thought, or Islamic Sufism being integrated into Islamic thought, and its integration into popular life, how do they play out in relation to one another?
Yeah, but maybe it's a coincidence. In the same time, the both of them happened. But one way is, you're right. Philosophization, another is popularization. But I think that in between, we can find the tradition of mystical poetry. Originally, the poets themselves were the elites. Of course, they could write and they could manipulate the expressions in Persian, Arabic, or Ottoman Turkish literature. But at the same time, these poems were or have been largely recited by popular people. So maybe the poems were located, we can locate it in between two stories. But maybe the philosophization and the popularization, they were independent from each other. And maybe for the first phase, in the first phase, the philosophization took in the, it's a philosophical independence, and another is an institutionalized part, aspect of Sufism. For example, especially in the case of Tariqa. In the so-called classical period, every Sufi thinkers were independent, even if they trained their disciples. They didn't gather as a group, but they trained their disciples in their home, for example. So it was very personal. But in the Middle Ages, it was institutionalized. And this is closely related to the popularization of the Sufism.
Thank you. Okay. We met before 2 or 3 days ago. Okay. My name is Zeynep Oktay Uslu, and I'm an assistant professor of Turkish literature at Boğaziçi Üniversitesi.
So, Professor Tonaga, do you mind taking another question? May I ask? So, if I am not wrong, at the first presentation, you kind of offered us the percentages of focus of the studies, and I'm curious about current day, because I guess I missed it. So, if you don't mind, can you bring those slides? So, if I am not wrong, nowadays anthropological studies are much more focused in Japan, and so metaphysical studies are kind of, I don't know, maybe forgotten or ignored, or how shall I say, I don't know.
What is ignored, so?
Yeah, the saint studies, anthropological studies are dominant now in Japan nowadays.
In the topic of saint veneration, it is dominant. It is not dominant at all in the topic of Sufism.
Okay, okay. So this is just in terms, but my curiosity comes from maybe, well, anthropological studies kind of forgetting about the theoretical or doctrinal studies.
Originally, anthropology came from the illiterate world.
I see.
So the targets were sub-Saharan Africa, for example. So anthropologists themselves were not able to read the classical texts, so they hated and they took the distance from the classical texts.
Thank you.
That's
very important.
Yeah.
That's very important. Okay.
But I think that that's a global trend. I mean, would you agree that if you, for instance, in French academia, in American academia, in like the 60s up to the 80s, it was all mostly metaphysical, and then now it's the anthropological studies and historical studies have become much more popular. Like metaphysical studies are out, sort of. A little bit.
The American case.
In the American case, metaphysical studies are still continuing, and they really emphasize the theoretical approach to be emphasized. If I'm not, I mean, that's my humble experience based on 12 years of study there. But it might be, well, anthropological studies, yes, you're right. What I find interestingly strange to me that particularly Turkish and Ottoman studies are kind of ignored. It's because of language barrier, I believe. Persian, Arabic, even Urdu are much more easy to learn for the Westerners, I want to say, Americans and also Europeans. But kind of Ottoman Turkish, you have to learn first the modern Turkish and then study the Ottoman Turkish, and so they don't want to spend that much time. Yasushi Tonaga is kind of exceptional colleague about this. I mean, among the researchers, you're sort of exceptional.
Except Turkish specialists.
Yes, exceptional. No, estağfurullah, I don't want to say that, but you are really unique in your case, coming from Japan. Like Elif Hoca said at the beginning, Japanese as a different culture, and also Japan as having a different worldview. Plus learning Turkish and Ottoman Turkish, that's something very important. And I wanted our students to pay attention to this, that you have to work with the primary sources and not just translate them, but at the same time find out about the relations of these huge ideas, vahdet el-vücud and whatnot. So thank you very much. Is there any other, Cem Bey, or önce kendinizi?
There are two persons.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to ask about this slide. So.
Gümanur Hocam, önce kendisi tanıtır mısınız?
I'm Gümanur Bağlan, teaching in Şehir University Industrial Design Department. Actually, I'm going to ask about the question about the boundaries between, especially the anthropology and architecture. Also, there was a very exciting conference last week about material culture. So, how can we locate the areas about architecture and design? Is it inside anthropology because it looks too minor?
Of course, about
So do you mention about the methodology or just the field of architecture? Because when you talk about anthropology, then we start to mention about the objects and physical things there. So how can we divide them?
Thank you very much for your question. In all days, the disciplines are divided, very separated. They are independent. They were independent. But these days, we are searching for the interdisciplinary approach. So these days, you are correct. It is more and more difficult to discern this article is. It mainly is based on anthropology, but it is based partly on architecture studies, and so to make this bibliography, it took a long time for me to discern on which I must choose one thing, one discipline. So it took a long time. So about the border, it is not so clear. But in the core, I think 80% can be ascertained. This is an anthropological research. This is a literary approach. So 80% are okay, and 10-20% they have some problems. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Yeni Terzi has a question.
Oh, yes.
Cem,
Başka var mı arkadaşlar?
soracaktım.
Cem
Ben
Bey
onun
var.
yerini aldım.
Yasushi hocam, ben sorumu Türkçe soracağım. Sizin İngilizceniz ve Türkçemden bir şey değil, İngilizcemden Türkçeniz. Cevabı İngilizce'de verebilirsiniz. Naat şeriflerde, Naat, ne biliyorsunuz? Hazreti Peygamber için yazılmış şiirleri Naat şeriflerde habire mukayese yapılır Hazreti Peygamberle diğer peygamberler arasında. Hazreti Musa için o Tur'a çıkarken ona ayakkabılarını çıkar emri geldi. Ama sen miraca çıkarken sana bu emir gelmedi. Senin ayakkabın göklerin, arşın başına tac oldu gibi ifadeler var. Şimdi Bosnagil'in eseriyle bu naat şairlerin düşüncesini nasıl izah edebiliriz? Sizin düşünceniz olabilir mi konuda?
Maybe in this treatise he didn't touch it on this point. I have no idea about this. So.
Maybe you need to share.
Yeah, thank you very much for your information.
Professor Tonaga, there are 3 more questions. Are you willing to take them?
Yeah, let's the first.
Yeah, Cem Bey, Ibrahim from Santa Barbara, and then Aslı.
Okay.
My name is James Sever. I'm a graduate student at Sufi Studies here at Üsküdar University. Professor Tonaga, many thanks for your nice presentation. My question is that, I'm just thinking at the same time, is there any meeting point or similarities, or maybe even hermeneutics among the Sufism, Taoism and Buddhism, and maybe Indian mysticism in terms of fana, tawba and hikmah?
Thank you very much for your excellent question. Yes, they have common points. Based on this similarity, Izutu wanted to make his own inclusive philosophy based on the Oriental philosophies. So, for example, about the term fana, Buddhism has the word nirvana. And we cannot simply say they are the same. But in the case of nirvana, there are 2 kinds of nirvana according to Buddhism studies. I don't want to enter deeply. So But roughly speaking, we can find common way of thinking among mystical streams in every region. So Buddhism has, especially if we compare Sufism with Buddhism, we must choose some sect or streams. Compared to Islam, Buddhism has many sects. Islam can be divided only into majority of Sunnism and minority of Shiism, only two, and some others. But in the case of Buddhism, there are countless sects. And for example, most people who want to compare Buddhism and Sufism pick up either Zen Buddhism or Pure Land Buddhism, Nembutsu Buddhism. And maybe it's easier for us to compare Zen and Sufism, because both of them are based on training, spiritual training, and their way of training is concentration. And the only difference is maybe the Islam is, how can I say, please understand this word only in English, not in Turkish. There is a difference in the religious studies. There is a difference between personal God and impersonal God. So it's something like God and Godhead. So, so in Zen Buddhism, they dislike the notion of personal God. So they don't admire Buddha at all. Actually, they admire, but if I say I admire God, that means there is something called God and not called God. So you are again restricted by dichotomy, they say. So we must overcome such a kind of dichotomy. So we must seek so-called emptiness or nothingness, something like this. But on the contrary, in the Islamic case, it is very dangerous to say that we can overcome the stage of Allah. We must seek something more. Actually, I think that Ibn Arabi's case, he used the word both Allah and Al-Haq. When he uses the word Al-Haq, in some pages, not constantly, but in some cases he meant something over personal gods. But anyway, there are some difference between these two, but it is worth comparing the Zen Buddhism and Sufism. And if I return to your first answer, I think there are common elements or almost the same phenomenon between
Thank you for your presentation. I'm Ibrahim Mansour. I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of California, Santa Barbara. So I guess I had a question, almost about one question about each section of the presentation, but I'll make them very simple. So my first question is with regards to the category of metaphysics. So I was wondering, in terms of those studies, under what departments were they usually produced? So, like, were they under religious studies departments, or how would they, under what departments? Because for others, I think it's
what I called mystical, metaphysical studies. Most of them are from the religious studies section. Yes.
Okay.
And about the historical approach, they studied in the departments of history.
Okay.
And for the anthropology, of course, they belong to anthropology.
Okay, thank you. My other question was with regards to the 7 stages of Fana and Fana Baqa and Ibn al-Arabi's work. Which work exactly, or is it exactly does it appear in, or is it in several of his works, like this
7, it is in the Futuhat. Yes.
And sorry, my last question was, the manuscript of the Busari, was this actually in his hand? Oh, it is, okay. So
because there are many autographs, so we can compare all of them and the same handwriting.
So here, he copied his own work.
Yeah.
wow.
So, and he at the end he wrote, on this day I finished this work, so we can know very clearly when he wrote it.
The last thing is I quickly looked up the paper. So there's apparently there are two studies on the Hanabila and Sufis. So one was by Melcher. I don't know if there's still the other one.
Maybe Makdisi.
Yes,
Makdisi. Yes.
Okay,
I think it was. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Professor. Thank you very much for the fruitful conversation. You also showed us how to make a presentation. I'm a PhD student at the university, at the institute, and I'm a huge fan of Toshihiko Izutsu. He's a lot of things, but also perfect linguistics. So what I was wondering, even though you fell asleep in the first class, I think you may have learned a lot of things from him. So I'm very poor and ignorant by the text of in Arabic and Farsi, but I'm trying to learn. Even though from the translations I'm very impressed. And so do you have any kind of works about etymology of the words, of Sufi terminology, and if they're reachable to me? And,
etymological work.
Yeah, I mean in Arabic he does it a lot of times in his works, you know, such as Gaib and Gayur and stuff like that. So I'm wondering about those things.
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, thank you very much. And about the etymology of the Sufi terms, first we can count the Massenion's work. What is the title? It is translated into English, also originally written in French, and it shows that most of the Sufi terminology is based on or coming from Quran and Hadith Sharif. And the second thing I can recommend you is this is also translated into Turkish, originally written in Arabic, Sadr Hakim's Mujam Sufi. Sufi terminology, I remember. So here in this book, Sadr Hakim explained the first Quranic usage of the word, and then, Quran, and then the general usage in Islam. And then he, not Islam, but in Sufism in general. For example, Al-Ghazali wrote something like that. And in the last part, he concentrated on Ibn Arabi's usage and showing the reference. So I believe these three can help with information.
Professor Tonaga, we are very grateful. Thank you very much. Arkadaşlar bir teşekkür edelim. We are also grateful for your work at Kyoto University, at the Kenan Rifai Center for CT Studies. May Allah give you health and long life to serve more, inşallah. Elif Hocam, please.
Teşekkür ederim.
Son bir şey belirtmek istiyorum. İnşallah hocam. Tekrar sizinle beraber olma imkanımız olur. İnşallah. Bundan önceki çalışmamız çok verimli geçti. Hocam çok verimli geçti bu 2 doğumlu köprüsü çalışması. Dilerim onun bir benzerini tekrar yapma imkanı olur. Bu çalışma vesilesiyle enstitümüzle, efendim söyleyeyim, Kyoto Üniversitesi arasında çok güçlü bağlar kuruldu. buna her hocamızın ayrı ayrı enstitüden de emeği geçti. Emre'nin Terzi hocamızın özellikle gelen doktora öğrencilerinin bu Osmanlı tasavvuf metinlerine intibakında çok kıymetli katkıları var. Hocam çok müteşekkiriz. Çünkü bu öğrenciler ve çalışan, burada bulunan her bir arkadaşın asıl bu değil mi, ilişkilerin meyve vermesini sağlayacaklar inşallah. Hocamızın en önemli özelliklerinden birisi çok fazla öğrenci tutuyor ve yetiştirebiliyor olması. Bu arada hocamız en son Tokyo Camii'ni gösterdiler. Hocam biz o Tokyo Camii'ne gittik.
Evet.
Bir de baktık ki Emine Terzi hocamızın da orada bir kitabı var. Japonca. Japonca.
Ne güzel.
Japonca. Hazreti Pir'le ilgili bir... Ay estağfurullah. Hazreti Pir'le ilgili çok kıymetli bir çalışma. İngilizcesi de var. Diyanet Vakfı kendisi evet, hem Japonca'ya hem İngilizce'ye çevrilmiş. Harika. Hocam biz sizden doymayız ama lütfederseniz Emre Hocam, siz hocamıza çok küçük bir hediye düşünmüştük. Onu takdim ederseniz çok memnun olurum. Beraber, hep beraber. Buyurun.
Kimse gitmesin, toplu resim çekeceğiz.
Evet, hep birlikte bir resim çektirelim. Kıymetli hocam.
Çok şey, önemli bir şey. Ana koleksiyon. Miraj.
Evet, evet. İçinde bir açıklaması, tasarım bir şey.